name's Jacob. I've been an independent artist for over a decade. Have been releasing music for a long time and have never had a manager, never been in a record deal, have spoken to lots of managers, have spoken to lots of record labels, and haven't found anyone who I've really been inspired by or impressed by, to be honest. Every time I speak with them, I think they could do exactly what I could do with consistency, if I have consistency. So I've done a fair amount of streams and views and blah, 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 it doesn't really matter. But it's been a really fun journey in Web3 so far. I jumped in 2020. I watched people get into it because I followed him for a while on Instagram. I thought what he did was funny. And when he jumped into it and sold his first NFT on Nifty Gateway for $969 as an open edition, I was asleep and I missed it, and now I'm tragically upset. But let's get into it because I don't want to take up too much time with other amazing speakers. Firstly, something that I like to do when I'm trying to identify what the path forward is with anything is identify the problems first, so then we can look into what the solutions might be. And some of the things up here are pretty evident already, like the music NFT infrastructure being pretty underdeveloped. And what I mean by that is SoundXYZ, Catalog, Royal.io, all of these platforms and marketplaces are really valuable. When you are already in Web3, you start to recognize how incredible they are. However, I don't feel like they reach beyond the Web3 audience as yet. So for us, as we explore all of these, it's raising the question as to what actually will increase the mainstream adoption that all of us speak about within Twitter Spaces. So as you can see up there, you might have already read it, if you're someone who's not been in crypto or NFTs, there is a bit of stigma toward it, like if we live in reality. Like this, you go on Instagram, it's not the best look for NFTs. If you go on Twitter, it's a great look for NFTs, so that's why we head over there and stay there. But if you've had a bad experience with crypto, if you've had a friend who's had a bad experience with crypto, it's a volatile, scary place, and if we're going to be putting our art into this ecosystem, we need to recognize that the volatility can be frightening for a lot of people. But the main thing that I want to talk about is that apart from us as artists, no one actually is upset about Spotify. And that's like an interesting reality to think about, because streaming is $10 for every month, and you can go and listen to every song on the planet, and the user experience is good. Even though I'm aware that it's 0.004 cents for a stream in Australia, which is like $4,200 and something per million, I still use Spotify because it's easy, and I'm like aware of how shitty it is. So for someone who's not an artist, who's using all of these DSPs and these streaming services, even though they might see us talking about it on social media, the fact that it's convenient and effective and easy is going to make it somewhat difficult for them to see a reason to jump over into the NFT sphere. So, how do we convince somebody to actually come over and get involved in what we're up to? And again, within all of these rooms that we hang out in and speak, pretty much all day, every day, and never sleep, and we spend all our time into the spaces, we talk about mainstream adoption and trying to bring people into the ecosystem as artists. Now, my audience that has followed me for a long time, I was under the assumption that if I did an NFT, they would be stoked about it because it was tied to a song of mine that they loved, and like analytically I could see they loved it. And if I released that, they would be all about it. They couldn't have cared less, like at all. Like, people say they get hatred from their audience. They get like, some level of disgust. You've seen it with independent artists or even people with record labels, just because of the misunderstanding and that you're destroying the environment and everything. But all I got was disinterest. And so what I recognized pretty early on, because I released the project, I think maybe 2 or 3 months after the Bored Apes, I bought one. Yeah, way back, I couldn't afford it now. But I realized that I had to work on developing a brand new audience in Web3, people who understood crypto, people who understood NFTs. They were going to be my audience for this particular creativity. And then I had to put a line down the middle and understand that Web2 marketing is quite different to Web3 marketing at this present time. But to convince someone to get into the ecosystem, we can do what we can by educating our audience as best we can. But I still believe that if the actual DSPs like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and whatnot start implementing the NFT infrastructure, that, in my view, even though that might not be the best outcome that we actually like inherently want, I think that's going to be when the consumers start to recognize what NFTs are and they actually start using them. So Instagram, if you follow that Mosteresi dude, whatever, he talks about NFTs frequently on his Instagram socials, and he's one of the heads of Instagram. They're implementing it. Twitter, obviously. Spotify has been hiring people to explore the Web3 infrastructure. I don't know about Apple, but a lot of different companies are talking about it at least. And obviously Facebook's just gone like all the way with it. But that can be a bleak outlook if we're waiting for the corporations to be like, finally the mainstream adoption is here because they're finally implementing it. What can we actually do to thrive right now? Because there's obviously a lot of opportunities. And before I go to the next slide about artists, I believe, just like Hood Stars, and say these people like Sound XYZ, Audience Catalog, Royal, Yoshi Drops, Legend.music, which actually isn't out yet, so I probably shouldn't have put that there. I think they have the potential to succeed enough by incorporating enough artists, whether they be super high follower or not. If they start to see genuine financial success, I think then there could be enough noise generated to increase the chance of other people jumping into the Web3 space. Because at the end of the day, that's kind of what we want. We want more people to understand what we're doing, so the fan bases that we currently have, or even like not to do with music, but the people who are getting involved with our companies, they know what NFTs are and they're not so confused by it. So, what can we actually do as artists? And I hope this is somewhat relevant because how many artists are actually here? Musicians. This guy. I'll just talk to you. But I'll try and make it more rounded for everybody because I don't think it just has to be to do with music. First and foremost, it's obviously extremely important to understand what marketplaces are around and what they're doing and which demographics they have. So if you're looking to even just develop a project, it doesn't have to do with music. It's like, do I want to jump within Manifold and develop my own thing? Who knows Manifold? You guys explored Manifold? No? Oh, nice. This guy. You explored Manifold. It is a place where you can pretty much develop your own smart contract without knowing any coding whatsoever. So write it down. If you've not looked at it, it's like the coolest thing ever. Like, seriously, look at it. However, if you don't even want to do that, jumping back into the music scene slightly for a second, knowing what Royal does with the royalty sharing mechanism, knowing what Sound XYZ does, looking at the artists who are dropped on those platforms and see the quantities, the types of NFTs, like looking at what works and slowly like funneling your authentic creativity into them is going to be one method, I think, to use the blueprint of others to see success, because we do have some blueprints now. When I got into the NFT space, there was no, especially no music NFT blueprint. I couldn't find anyone who was talking about it. But now there are some people, say Violetta, Josh Savage, Illa the producer. I could be rattling off names none of you know, but if you're in Twitter spaces, you probably know some of these guys and Sammy. So let's move forward. The options, and I'm going to try again to move beyond the music thing just so it's relevant. One of NFT drops, in my view, they can go anywhere. However, I think that Foundation, Super Rare, and Nifty Gateway are kind of like well known for that type of drop. Both Super Rare and Nifty Gateway are hard to get into. And by the way, I see a little shaking of the head there. So if you don't know what these are, write these down too, because I see the confusion. And that's great, by the way, because a lot of these here are what most people are using. So let's go through them. Foundation is easier to get on because I think maybe you either still need an invite from a friend or you don't anymore. I've not looked into it recently, but getting an invite from a friend isn't overly difficult. Just go onto it for a while, you'll find someone. And you can then drop your one of one. In my opinion, if you're going to drop a one of one NFT, it should look prestigious. It should look pristine. you should maybe try and collaborate with an NFT artist who's already semi-well known, because if you do that, then you're going to obviously generate excitement from their community as well. Is that like a James Bond ringtone? Oh, that's me! I'm getting kicked off by the timer. Oh no.
Right, keep going.
Keep going? I'll try and wrap it up, sorry. Anyway, I think a pristine kind of one-to-one is what works. If you're doing music and you're just dropping your album cover, it's kind of boring. You can do that with other methods. Music video NFT, Zora is incredible. Glass, I believe, is run by Australians, I think. So if you want to stay local, you can use them. But Zora and Glass allow for uploads of larger NFT file sizes. So if you go to OpenSea, could have changed, but when I tried to do it, it was like 70 megabytes. It was like super low. But if you have an NFT that you don't want to lower the quality of, head over to those ones. Zora has a massive community. It is a little bit more music-centric, but it doesn't have to be. You can do anything. NFT profile picture collections, the ones that we know and love. Manifold you can do by yourself if you really dive deep into their ecosystem. But getting your own smart contract dev, I'm sure there's a few here, or maybe there will be later on as well. Speak to them, get to know them. They can really help you develop all of the crazy utility that you want to implement, instead of being limited by the actual platform you're on. Let's go to music NFT drops, the smaller ones, which you can go on. I mean, they're all music oriented, but you can do whatever you want if you want to drop a smaller one. My method with all the collections that I dropped has been to create a collection which identifies one particular aspect of my song or my creativity. What I mean by that is I have a lyric collection, I've got like a artwork album collection, I've done one on Royal, so I'm actually sharing the royalties of the song, and then some other ones which have different utility because I just go crazy with releasing stuff. And what you can do with that, even though it's going to be inflationary, is you have one place for people to go if they want to see your lyric collection, or if they want to go and see your actual like one-of-one collection. You kind of separate them and expand upon those so people know where they are, instead of having a ridiculous amount of collections where people just get confused. And then what you can do with them, let's just continue with this, is let's go to the bottom one first. What you can do with them is create token-gated experiences, which is my favorite thing ever. And I think that's what most people are going to be doing soon. It's like Patreon, or it's like YouTube memberships, but with NFTs. So you're not stuck to a subscription every single month. You are a holder, you're a part of the community, you're involved in that creative ecosystem, therefore you get access to an exclusive website that they might have created where you connect your Web3 wallet and you can go into different areas to get that exclusivity. Or if you're even more meta, you can literally go and create like a virtual experience and go hard with that. Exclusive content, obviously, if you are anyone who's doing some level of content on YouTube, Instagram, anything, identify what your most valuable is and then lock that behind some shit. But do it in a way where it doesn't feel like it's locked, you know? Like, release some of it, really hook people in with that, because that's your most expansive, exciting content, and then say, if you want more of this, jump over here. Because it's what we see with TikTok right now. Someone doing a video, and they're like, come over here for part 2, and you're like, god damn, and you've got to go to their profile and actually explore more. It's a similar concept. Financial upside is obviously the profile picture thing. You can make money with anything, but if you're literally doing a generative collection and you market it correctly to the right demographic, then you'll probably see some generational wealth. So, I'm going over the time frame here. The last thing I'll say, and this does relate to absolutely everybody, is understand the demographic that you're trying to market to. And as I said before, I was dramatically punched in the stomach when I released my first NFT collection that had all this animation and beautiful, you know, illustrations and whatnot, and no one purchased it until I found my Web3 audience to eventually sell that out later. So what I found is if you're looking to promote and market a project, and most of you probably know this already, is spend as much time in Twitter Spaces as you can. It's really simple. It doesn't need to be complex. Like, at this point in time, I think the marketing down the line will change, but right now, literally. Just how much time sustainably can you spend in Twitter spaces with a product and not going into like shill spaces? Do you know what shill spaces are? Anyone? Yeah, I'll put this guy. Shill spaces are pretty much like promotional spaces. Where you're going into a room, you don't care what people are talking about, you're waiting to see, you're waiting to get put up on stage, and then you're like, by the way, here's my project, this is what I do, and why you should care. And no one actually cares at all. So going into a room, showing who you are and your personality without talking about yourself is usually a good thing. It's like if you were walking down the beach and you went up to a random with their dog, and you were like, by the way, listen to my music, see ya. And they were just like, I don't know who you are, like, fuck off. And that's the reality of Twitter Spaces. So to get off the stage and let other people speak, my view with NFT music philosophy, to kind of draw it back, is similar to what Hoodstuff said. Support up-and-coming people. Like at the moment, one of the best ways to get money is through a record deal or a distribution deal when they give you an advance, and you have to pay that back to them, which can be a frightening thought, because they're signing a brand new album, and you don't know how that's going to go. You can try and judge it off your previous streaming, your previous experiences, but you can't predict the future. So instead, if you do have a viral moment, or you do have a community of people who do kind of understand Web3, you can release a project and get probably the same amount of money they would give you, but you don't need to pay it back to anyone. So it's similar to the GoFundMe Kickstarter thing. And the last thing I'll say, which is super exciting, is back in the day with music before social media, you would have a street team. People would go out and hang posters on the wall, and they would like get your show out to people. That kind of went away for a while, but I think, and we do see this with people doing generative stuff more so, because they have like 1,000, 2,000, maybe 10,000 people in that community. All of them want to financially benefit too. And so if you're leading that, and all of it is tied to your music, doesn't have to be if you're not a musician, you're going to see all these people talking about you and promoting you when you're not in the room. And that's a really, really valuable thing. So, thank you very much. I'm Jacob. I appreciate you.